What is up, Bears fans? Welcome to the Bears Huddle podcast, your UK take on all things Chicago Bears, guys. What is happening this morning? Please obviously like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Right, we're going to talk a possible gift the Chicago Bears may have dropped into our laps from Florida. We'll talk about that in a moment. Look, everyone knows the Bears need to improve the defensive line. Everyone knows the Bears need an edge rusher at the opposite edge of the line to Montez Sweat. Lots of talk this morning around Max Crosby, possible trade package including DJ Moore and a first-round pick to get Max Crosby into the building. Also, lots of talk around Trey Hendrickson as well. I've got to say personally, and I know this is not going to be a popular opinion, I am very, very much not in the fan club of signing Crosby. I don't think this would be a good move for the Bears at all. I think we should be hanging on to our first round picks. I think we should be building through the draft and using those picks to build through the drafts, especially taking on a 28-year-old who is look, don't get me wrong, a good edge rusher, but not a great edge rusher. I mean, you wouldn't put him in the same category as the likes of Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, for example. He certainly isn't up there with those guys. And I'll be absolutely honest with you. You look at the guy's sack numbers. You know, he's had one outstanding season at 14.5 sacks in 2023, but the last two seasons, he's produced little more than better than what Montez Sweat has kind of brought in. So would you realistically want to be paying a first round pick across, plus a huge salary to a guy who statistically is no better than Montez Sweat? I genuinely don't get the hype around Max Crosby. Yeah, look, the guy is a very good edge rusher, don't get me wrong, and a very good run defender. I think he's probably in that second tier of edge rushers behind the likes of Myles Garrett, behind the likes of Trey Hendrickson, behind the likes of TJ Watt, behind the likes of Micah Parsons. But he certainly isn't, I don't think, a completing piece, a finishing piece. And with the Bears having so many needs at other positions, look, the whole safety room needs to be re-signed. The interior defensive line needs to be addressed. The linebacker room may well need an extra linebacker if, obviously, Tremaine Edmonds is released. I know, obviously, DeMarco Jackson is a guy who might likely to be signed. But, you know, cornerback, again, Nahshon Wright, likely to leave because the Bears are not going to cough up $16.5 million for Nahshon Wright. And Tyreek Stevenson is a bit of a knucklehead, has not produced consistently. You know, Kyler Gordon is probably not your outside corner long term. So, look, what are you going to do there? There's a lot of other needs on this team. For me, you know, and I just don't see the true value in DJ Moore and a first round pick to the Raiders for a guy who is okay, not great, not outstanding. Look, if it was for Myles Garrett, yeah, go for it. Take it. You know, Myles, if it was a situation where, and I don't think this would ever happen, where the Browns would take a first round pick, DJ Moore, for Myles Garrett, you'd jump at that. Myles Garrett is an elite edge rusher. The guy is just different class, you know, but he's not in that same class. And I just don't see the value in giving up first round pick and DJ Moore for a player who is not going to make, I don't think, the Bears into a winning. I don't think just adding Max Crosby makes us Super Bowl champions. It doesn't. It just doesn't at the end of the day. So, look, for me, that move makes no sense. Trey Hendrickson, I think, obviously a more realistic prospect. It's what he'll obviously accept. He used $29 million last season, obviously coming off the back of an injury. May well come for slightly cheaper than that. 1 year, 2 year prove-it deal with a situation where maybe you put an edge rusher in, bring an edge rusher in from the draft who learns alongside of a TJ Parker, for example. However, it was revealed yesterday that the Miami Dolphins have released Bradley Chubb, and he is now available as a free agent. Could Chubb be the sort of player we want to bring in and sort of bring in the opposite end of the line to Sweat and then use the extra money to go and get a defensive lineman, go and get linebackers, go and get safeties, you know, put money into other positions that are of need. Now, the Seattle Seahawks proved, I thought, in the Super Bowl that you don't need necessarily to have elite level edge rushers to win Super Bowls. None of their guys are elite level. Bradley Chubb is a very good edge rusher, certainly, and certainly not an elite level guy. The with the Denver Broncos. Here's a few stats and facts on old Bradley Chubb as a possibility. He's 29 years old, so similar sort of age, around a bit older than Max Crosby, of the same sort of age as Trey Hendrickson. He's 6'4", 268 pounds. Went to NC State between 2014 and 2017 and was originally a first-round pick in 2018. Spent 4 years with the Denver Broncos before moving on to become a Miami Dolphin. A two-time Pro Bowler, NFL Forced Fumbles leader in 2023, All-Rookie Team of the Year in 2018, and numerous awards at the college level. A very skilled guy, a good guy, a guy who could perhaps come in and be that bit cheaper than Hendrickson, and also, perhaps offer, a different solution on that edge and give us the spare cap space, the spare, keep the draft picks to go and build this team elsewhere. Chubb is a good player, don't get me wrong. Let's look at his statistics. Now, look, I know his injury history has been slightly clouded last couple of seasons. But, last season played the full 16 games. Had 2 passes defensed, 6 forced fumbles. Also recorded 11 sacks last season. So a good season. Recorded what? Sorry, that was 2023. My apologies. In 2025, he did play the full season. Full season played. Had 1 fumble recovery. Had 2 forced fumbles, 8.5 sacks. So in the last couple of years, he's got 11 sacks, 8.5 sacks. Did miss the whole of 2024 though with a torn ACL, which obviously could well go against him. Has had mixed seasons. If you look through, 16 games played in 2018, only 4 played in 2019, 14 played in 2020, then 7 in 2021, 16 in 2022, then 2 8-game seasons before. Obviously, the last couple of seasons away from that ACL injury, has played 16 in 2023 and 17 in 2025. Maybe this is a turning point for him in terms of those injuries. In terms of total numbers in his career, 48 sacks across his career. Career high of 12 in his first season with the Denver Broncos. Did then tail off with the Broncos, probably why he obviously was allowed to go to the Dolphins, and that 5th-year option was not taken up. Had some pretty decent times with the Dolphins, 8, 5.5, 2.5, and 11, and then 8.5. So, like I said, has come back strong in the last few years. So, could this be an option the Bears could look at? And like I said, it is a cheaper option, I believe, than someone like a Hendrickson or a Max Crosby. And I think, given where we are with the cap, given the lack of cap space, given the needs at other places, Bradley Chubb could well be a cheaper and better option than Crosby and Hendrickson for that reason. Look, the cap space just isn't there. Look, I know the Bears are looking at ways of creating that cap space, obviously releasing Tremaine Edmonds, contract restructures around DJ Moore, Joe Tooney, Jalen Johnson, for example. Also looking maybe at an injury settlement with Dayo Adeyingbo, which I think, is a good move, because how that guy is worth $20 million next year, God only knows. But look, certainly for me, it's worth thinking about. And I think hopefully Ryan Poles and his team are looking at this and evaluating it. Look, if Ryan Poles and his team decide that's not for them, it's not the best option, look, faith in Ryan to get this right. He's done a great job last year with the offensive line. I'm sure he will do the same with the defensive line. So we've got to obviously maintain faith in Ryan. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Would you take Bradley Chubb at the Chicago Bears? Do you think this is a realistic option for our Bears? Guys, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the content, please, of course, like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Bear down.